Are you new to mixing from your home studio, or maybe you've been mixing for some time now, but without a good strategy and plan, you might be finding that your mixes are getting cluttered and messy. You're stuffing loads of plugins in all the tracks. When it comes to actually finishing your project, you're never really so satisfied with the mix. If that sounds like you, then stick around and check out today's video. So my approach to mixing and to music and in life in general is to keep things simple, not to sweat the small stuff, work on the big stuff, focus on the big stuff, master the big stuff. And then I find all the details and the smaller stuff just tends to drop in and work itself out. That's the way I like to approach mixing from my home studio, musical mixing if you like. That's why I like to work with predominantly analog style plugins that really encourage my musicality, really force me to use my ears and really listen and mix like the pros. And when working in this way, there's one plugin in particular which will really encourage you to work simply and musically and get results fast, and that's a Neve style channel strip. Now I'll talk a bit more about a Neve style channel strip in a moment, but this is all about simplifying things down today. So there's two other jobs that need to get done before we start dropping our channel strip onto our separate tracks. The first thing is gain staging. Now there's so much confusion I'm getting back from gain staging when I'm hearing from people on a daily basis who just seem so confused by gain staging. So I'm going to keep it super simple in this video today and say quite simply, check on your DBFS meters, that's the meters next to your faders in your DAW, that you're not peaking any higher than -6 dBFS. You can be a lot lower than that, but make sure you're just not peaking any higher in that. That really is gain staging in its absolute simplest form. Just check that your tracks, your buses, and your mix bus don't exceed -6 dBFS and you'll be fine. If you want to learn more about gain staging, if you want to learn more about gain staging with a VU meter and why that's important, then check out my free 6-part mini course, the virtual console, links in the description box below. The second step before we start dropping on our channel strip plugin is to apply the static mix. The static mix is super simple. I think it's super fun. It's my favorite stage of mixing. It involves two elements, the volume faders and the pan knobs. And essentially it's our job at this point to volume balance. This is what mixing is all about, is getting balance. So we can take our time with the static mix. You might throw it up in 5 minutes. It might take you 45 minutes. It doesn't matter. This is all about getting a really good balanced mix before we've even dropped on any plugins whatsoever. Super clean. Your computer's going to work super fast. Bring up your faders, adjust your pan knobs and get it as balanced as possible before you start bringing in your plugins. And now it's time to drop on our channel strip. You drop your channel strip onto your tracks and any buses that you've created, any sum tracks, say backing vocals, sum all of those tracks onto an individual bus, and then rather than drop on 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6 instances of your channel strip on those individual tracks, you can drop it onto one single bus. So the Neve style channel strip, what does it do? How do the pros work so quickly with it? And why use it before you start even thinking about separate EQs, compressors, saturations and effects? So on a Neve style channel strip, you typically get a 4-band EQ, low band, 2 in the mids, low and high mid frequency and a high frequency. You'll also get a saturation knob, so you can dial in as much saturation, compression, distortion as you like, all in one knob, one big sweet sound and beautiful analog control. And you'll also get your high pass filters. I hope you're enjoying today's video today. If you are, I just want to remind you to please like and subscribe. And I've made a free guide for you with 5 pro top tips for using a channel strip. You can grab it right now from the link in the description box below. So 3 areas with your channel strip which I want to focus on today: the EQ, the saturation itself, and your filters. So applying the filters first off, not to be neglected. Your filters, I think of like clarity control. It's going to clean up the low end, it's going to clean up the top end, and it's going to allow the important low end to come through and the important beautiful high end as well, typically of vocals, typically at the low end, kick and bass, to really have their place and focus in your mix. They're also going to help your compressors further down the chain not to have to compress areas of the frequency spectrum which they don't need to. So it's going to mean your compressors are going to work better and more focused on the areas you want them to be focused on. Next up, your EQ. Now, what I love about using an EQ on a channel strip is it's simplified down. You can work with broad brushstrokes, and because it's early in the mix and your ears are fresh, you're going to hear the stuff nice and clearly, so you can work really fast. You can work like a pro. You can dig in with your EQ and make musical choices. Does this guitar sound better if I do this? Yes, it does. Move through the frequency bands easily. Better, better, worse, 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 better. You know, you can do that really easily. I did a video last week on an electric guitar. Started going through the upper mids and it's just starting to sound thin and flimsy. Come back down again. I was around like maybe 1.5, 1K. I was like, oh, it sounds sweet there. Have a boost. That's how we can work with the channel strip. That's why I love working with it. It's just like painting on a canvas, just working with color, just bringing in your EQ and enjoying it and having fun. And thirdly, we're gonna bring in some of that sweet Neve style saturation as you blend that in and you're simulating the distortion or the overloading of the signal. That's where you're gonna get some of that sweet compression too. That's essentially what happens. That's about as technical as I get. If you want it simply, it sounds cool, sounds great, sounds like the records that you like. And what this does is it gives it some of that classic warmth that your ears enjoy. It gives it some of that tonal compression that your ears enjoy, that glue, that sound, that cohesiveness that you're after already off the bat. You've applied some saturation, warmed up the sound. You've applied some compression through doing that. You've EQ'd with broad brushstrokes, and you've applied your filters too before you've even done any other plugins. Working through your tracks and your buses with the channel strip is such a fun, musical, and fast way to work. And the great thing about always using a channel strip is you will get used to that channel strip just like you've got used to the feel of your guitar, just like you got used to the feel of piano, you've got used to what it feels like to sing. Using it as an instrument every time on every mix means you'll learn moves with that channel strip, which you'll do time and time again. I need to dial this in. I want to dial it on this setting for my vocal. I want to do this on my bass. You'll learn the tips and tricks and you'll find your way around your channel strip like a musical instrument, which means your workflow will rapidly increase. If you'd like 5 top pro tips for using a channel strip, I've made a guide for you. You can download it in the description box below. So if you're finding mixing stressful and you're just not getting the results that you hope for, try simplifying everything down. Don't sweat the small stuff. Drop your channel strip on the big stuff in your mix. Focus on those and everything else will fall into place. And finally, some Neve style channel strip plugin recommendations on the paid side of things. The plugin that I use on a daily basis is from Kit Plugins, the BBN 105, the Blackbird Neve style channel strip. It's very intuitive, very easy and simple to use. So that's one reason why I love it, but it also sounds just great. Also sounding great from Sonomus is the Burnley 73. I did a review of that recently. It really does sound fantastic. On the cheaper side of the paid plugins from Waves Audio is also there, Shep 73. I believe all 3 of those you can also try in full for free for a limited time. So you can go and check those out, see which one you prefer. On the free side of things, Neve from Analog Obsession is a great Neve style channel strip. It might look a little bit more confusing than the others, certainly for a beginner's eyes, but once you get used to it, it's a cracking plugin. Hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe. Most importantly, my friend, go have yourself a great day.